wanna be free with my people to prosper and hold it down. Don't you sit and wait, contemplating on a revolution. The time is now. I just wanna be free. 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 Can't you see? I just wanna be free.
Okay. Another episode of the Things I Wish I Knew About Money podcast. I'm your host, Camille Smith, and when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And best believe I'm making lemonade at this moment in time. Um, Tax season's over, technically. If you late, it's okay. It's okay. Especially if you don't owe. It's okay. If you're late and you do owe, I still have time to do it. But dang, it's been a heck of a month. However, I'm excited to take a break from thinking about taxes and actually have a special guest, Maliesa. We were able to meet at ACBN. Big up yourself. Woo! Hold on. I have to give you the same energy I give everyone. I can't.
I got double. I got the real and the tech,
Exactly. And Liza, when I met you at ACBN, first of all, you know what your inspiration was? The hairstyle. I was like, ooh, sis, your hairstyle is looking lovely. You are giving me inspiration. And then when you went on stage to talk, I was like, what's up? I definitely want to speak to you. So welcome.
Thank you.
How's your week been? Or how's your year been since or the month? I guess it's been a month since we've
been over a month, right? Yeah, that was in March, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been very busy. Work's been busy. Business has been growing.
Nice.
I recently launched my own podcast. Yeah, where I invite guests on to talk franchising and their experience and how leadership conversations are really forming culture and brand growth. Okay. I've had 2 guests. I've released a couple short clips, and excited about that. And I did a couple extra conventions. I did the Canadian Franchise Association National Convention.
How was that?
Yeah, it was amazing. We had hundreds of people, about 400 or so, 500 maybe people, and all kinds of brands, small brands, big brands, emerging brands. I think there was like 60 something new members that came through.
Yeah.
What was great about that was the opportunity to educate leaders in the space about what I'm really passionate about, which is, exploring courageous conversations to help drive business growth and improving diversity and celebrating the diversity of business in this country by increasing representation and championing more inclusive design when it comes to building out franchise brands. Yeah, so I was all up in the space, girl. I did a keynote, I did a panel, I ran a workshop. I was all up and through. Everyone knew who I was by the end of that.
You were doing the most.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that folks, even though there's folks here that are watching the replay or watching live, they don't know who you is. So we got to let them know who is Maliesa.
Yeah. So I like introducing myself without necessarily tying all the brands and the titles to it.
Yes.
I am a Guyanese-born, Canadian-grown woman. I have about almost 20 years of experience in franchising on the
Wow.
corporate side. Yes.
Okay.
So I've had the opportunity to work across HR, operations, and training.
Mhm.
And so majority of my career, I've spent coaching entrepreneurs, franchise business owners, helping them grow their business, helping them go from 1 unit to, 5, 10 units. And what's special about the franchising industry and the business model, is you get to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
And that's ideal. That's baby. Especially for real entrepreneurs that like do it by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're buying into a system, you're buying into the processes, and you're buying into a support team that is there for you when you're, for whatever business needs you might need. And even if it's just to bounce some ideas off of. So I love the opportunity to help people, to be a part of their journey to achieve their dreams. It's a really special and privileged position to be in.
That's true. And I'm pretty sure when people hear you say 20 years in it, they're like, stop this. Stop this. How?
I started young. I started working my first job with Tim Hortons corporate at 19. Okay. So yeah.
I'm not gonna say it. You know what I'm gonna say. I am not gonna say it. Yeah. I'll be nice today. I will be respectful today. Because it's I know you're like, yeah, but if people know what I'm gonna say.
Yes.
But yes. Okay, so with that experience, like, so you started at Tim Hortons, and what made you say, this is it, like this is what I want to do for
my career?
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to say the rest of your life, but as a career, this is what I love doing.
Yeah, again, the franchising space is really about that community, really about supporting each other through growth. And I mean, at the time, the idea of traveling and, visiting places across this whole country to open stores, meet people, and really support entrepreneurs from knowing very little about running a business to get them to the point where they know so much that they're confident to get a second unit, a third unit, expand. It's just such a special feeling and a privilege to be a part of that growth journey. And what I can tell you, I'll tell you a little bit about why I decided to take all that experience and passion and start Hot Perspectives, is I've seen in business, whether it's franchise business or independent business, doesn't matter the size of the brand or organization.
Yeah.
One conversation or the inability to have a difficult or uncomfortable conversation can literally derail an entire business, an entire brand.
Yes.
And I've seen leadership lead well, courageously, intentionally, and see the success there. And I've also seen leaders who avoid the conversations, stick their head in the sand, or think that time will heal everything. And I've seen it not work out well, right? And so I want to take my expertise, my failures, my successes, and help coach and support entrepreneurs and franchise leaders in showing up for those harder conversations and championing those those courageous conversations that just need to happen to grow, right? To grow.
And I think that those type of conversations, it takes like a great leader to do that, right? But it's like, how do you form that leadership as well? But you also want to think like the businesses that are entrepreneurs or solopreneurships, they're like trying to build that leadership too. So I hope that people that are watching this takes that in, because it's the same thing with like doing a franchise and leadership, and then having your own business and leadership. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to a business, we're hoping that we're going to build this empire,
Yes.
and then bring people along so they can see the vision as well. So I'm glad that you're able to like notice those type of things, and notice like, okay, these are the hard topics that we're gonna discuss. So how do you want to wing through it and stuff, right? I like that. Let's see.
Well, the reality is, Camille, like when you're in it yourself, you kind of have, you can only see it from your perspective.
Facts.
Right? It's just the way it is.
Especially if it's your baby.
Yeah.
You're like, no, this is my baby. I want to handle it the way I want to handle it.
And especially if you're achieving some level of success,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're thinking, I'm okay with making X. I'm okay with being at this level. But what if one conversation could change everything?
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So now, okay. So with that type of conversation, what conversation have you acknowledged that derailed someone's business?
So I mentioned that my experience has been across HR, operations, and training.
Yes.
And I'm going to choose to share and focus on the training aspect, because training is such a critical part to achieving consistency in business.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically in franchise business, consistency is what builds the brand, right? If you go to one location and you have a great experience, and then you go to another location and that experience is poor or less than you expected, or just different than that first experience, it can completely change your perception and your connection to the brand. So what I would say is, people who don't spend enough time, energy, intention building their training system in a way that helps everyone learn, not just the A1 types, not just the people who are visual learners, not just the people who like to listen or audio learners, but build your training system in a way that appeals and is accessible to everyone. That will help to at least give you the best chance at that training landing for the people that it needs to land for.
Yeah.
I know it's not a specific example, because I don't want to be throwing any brands under the bus.
True. We are not obligated.
You know? But that's kind of where I see a lot of brands go wrong, is they don't put enough resources and effort into that first step of quality training.
Okay. And I think that's important. Okay, so you know what? I need to think like a franchise more so than an entrepreneur, because I'm thinking like, well, yeah, like of course, like with training, like having the training resources, you kind of want like, this is something I learned recently, the SOP, the like standard procedures of like your operations, right? So you want to be able to have that training, so like the full things that you have to do, so you're going to be able to write it down, use ChatGPT, whatever you want to use, and be able to do that with someone that's joining your field. Is that the type of training resources that you're talking about, or is it like more in depth than that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really is
Mhm.
beyond just the operations manual, which
Mhm.
is a core part of any business. Is, where's the instructions on how to get the job done, right? How to deliver the thing.
Yeah.
Whether you're a small franchise business or a franchisor expanding your brand, or if you only have one location, or you're a team of one,
Yeah.
even if nobody else has to do today, it's so incredibly important to have those systems written down, have those practices written down, have those steps written down, so that in the event you need someone else to step in the
Mhm.
event you get an opportunity to expand and grow, you don't have to go all the way back to step one. You don't have to start at zero. You can be like, okay, I
Yeah.
know how to do this part. I can teach someone how to do this part because I have my instructions, my steps written down.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I kind of equate it to, do you only get your passport if you're traveling, or do you keep that passport ready
mhm.
in case an opportunity comes up? You can catch that flight,
That
right?
is that's a good analogy. Oh man, that's a lovely analogy. Make sure you guys have your passport ready, because you never know when you have to fly out, or
Yeah,
you want to make a different type of opportunity, right? Uh,
exactly. Exactly.
I love that one. And let's see. Hold on, because the struggle is real. It's so annoying. Ooh, um, even though with the conversation, that those critical conversations and training resources, what about like those hidden fees that people don't think about? Because
You're chipping out a little bit.
I am.
Yeah,
How about
just a
now?
little bit.
Am I good now?
I think
Hopefully.
so.
Oh no, it doesn't need
Yeah.
to be. Okay, sorry. With what I find is with having those crucial conversations and like hiding under the sand, there's also critical conversations about like those hidden fees. And I think,
Yeah.
and again, I'm gonna think as a franchise person and not an entrepreneur, because there's hidden fees there too. But what are some hidden fees that folks should consider when they're starting, or when they're planning to start? Okay, should I do a franchise or should I start a business? Which one
Yeah.
is more ideal?
Yeah. So for the listeners, your audience that might not know really like the difference, like franchising is essentially, it's a business. It's not anything super special. It's a
Exactly.
business. And so it's a scalable business,
Mhm.
right? It's a repeatable model. Meaning, again, doesn't matter what location you go to, you should be having a consistent brand experience. And so if you are considering either buying a franchise,
Mhm.
or potentially you have a business that you're considering to build into a franchise,
Mhm.
it's important to understand the financial structures that go into a franchise business model.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to take you through. I'll stick it to, there's a lot, but I'll stick to top three.
Top three.
So the first fee or financial investment that you'd be thinking about would be the initial franchise fee.
Okay. Okay.
Now, the initial franchise fee can be anywhere from a couple thousand to over 100,000, depending on the brand.
Ooh. Okay, so for the folks that, because I know there's a lot of folks that have like cash on hand, depending on what situation they've had in their life. And they're like, you know what, I'm ready to do a franchise. Let me do a franchise. So what type of franchise would be ideal? Or like what you said a couple thousand to millions.
To about $1 million. That's like the overall cost. But like, yeah, 200,000, 300,000 could be a franchise fee. Absolutely.
That's a lot. That's a whole more. Well, no, that is a whole down payment, I should say.
It is.
It's not a mortgage.
And what makes a franchise fee a good investment or a not so good investment? Are you paying too much, or is that priced the right way?
Yeah.
Is the strength of the system, the strength of how the processes and the people come together to make that brand. That is what you're thinking. Okay. So think of an initial fee for a smaller emerging brand, maybe only has 5 to 10 units out there. Their initial fee might only be 5,000. Sorry, may only be maybe like 20,000, 40,000, 50,000, around there.
Okay, that's a little comfortable.
A brand that has hundreds of locations, who's been around for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they might be looking for 80, 90, $100,000, $200,000. But it's usually a one-time payment, that initial fee. And then we have something called a renewal fee. And so when you pay that initial fee,
yeah.
So that initial fee.
Wait. Is that another hidden fee?
So an initial fee, it's a part of it. So that initial fee gives you a contract. And that contract is usually 5 or 10 years, that initial fee. At the end of that 5 or 10 years, you have the option to renew your franchise agreement, and you would pay another franchise fee, but they call it the renewal fee. Usually not as much as the first one. Usually not as much as the first one, but still could be pretty high. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? Fine. Because it's 5 to 10 years, right?
Yes.
If you're still in the business 5 to 10 years, that means you're having like a good amount of cash flow. So yeah, fine. Wait, what's the percentage of like the amount? Is it like, so you said it's not the same amount?
No, usually it's not. Usually it's like around 50% of the initial fee.
Okay, because I was about to get very I was gonna get very irate. Okay, so we have the initial fee, and then we have, this is why it's very important, folks, to read the fine lines. Read that contract.
Yes. Understand what you're paying for. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the other one?
There's another fee. It's called, and probably one of the more popular ones, it's the royalties.
Right? Okay.
So, yes. Again, for your audience who might not know what royalties are, royalties is the percentage on the dollar that you pay. So for every dollar that your business earns, there's a percentage that goes to the franchisor to say, thank you for letting me use your name, your trademarks, your systems, your processes, and to tap into your brand. For every dollar I make, here's 8 cents, 6 cents, 10 cents on the dollar. Okay, so that's like, and that is something that I want to make, ideally, right? So it's kind of like a management fee or property, I guess management fee. Yeah. Kind of, sort of. Sort of. It's more like the fee you pay for, again, the right to use the brand name, logo, systems. It's like, it's almost like a licensing fee.
Okay.
Closer to that than a
Okay.
management fee.
And that so that's every dollar.
Yeah.
That is every dollar.
Yes.
And that depends on how popular the business is, right? I guess.
Again, royalty fees similar to the initial franchise fee will
Yeah.
depend on the value of the brand. So, are you
Yes.
just starting out? Have you been around for a long time? What's the average worth of the business that you have? Those are all the things that are going to play into how much that royalty fee is. Because if you're an investor or an entrepreneur, you want to make sure that you're not overpaying.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. That's royalties.
Okay, so we have the initial franchise fee, the royalties, which is continuous. But
Yes.
at the same time, if you're doing well, then that's a good thing. You're paying out of the because you're doing well. Okay.
Not necessarily that you're doing well. It just but you asked the question earlier. Does it make more sense for me to buy into a franchise or start my own thing?
True.
So if you think about the cost of creating an operations manual, trademarking your brand,
Yeah.
creating those training systems I was talking about earlier, those costs really add up. Creating a disclosure document, creating a franchise agreement, those are documents that need to be legally certified and stamped. So if you're asking, whether or not royalties make sense, like that initial investment of, franchise fee and then on the dollar, it might actually be cheaper depending on what you're doing.
Okay, so you know what? That should be that's the question of the day, folks. Let's bring out the poll. That is the question of the day. Would you rather a startup or buying a franchise? Because I had so one of my friends just got one as well, Mel. Oh my gosh, what is the caregivers that were
Just Like Family?
Yes, thank you. Just Like Family caregivers were there, and she got one of those, and like off scene she was like, listen, no one really told me these things, like what the heck, but like she was happy enough to be able to put her get her feet wet and start accumulating a different income stream. So I praise her. So, but she definitely was like, she told me, she's like, listen, no one tells you about these hidden fees. But what's the third one that people don't really think about? Because I want folks to be really like taking this in and like thinking like, okay, this is the cost.
What's the true cost?
Yeah, right? And that's really ideal for folks to see like what are different ways that they can build like their generational wealth or different kind of income streams. But we have to know the hidden fees so we don't get like tricked not tricked, but like surprised.
Yes.
Having that surprise is not lovely.
I would say another so I would say the initial fee, the royalty, and then the third that I would say is a very common fee in franchising is the marketing or ad fund or fee. And again, that is a percentage on the dollar. Usually a much smaller percentage, usually 2 to 3, could be anywhere from 1 to 3% usually for a marketing fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah. So coupled with the royalty fee, you could be looking at 10, 11%, right?
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. And maybe one of the, I don't know, the business model
Mhm.
specifically for Just Like Family, but maybe some of those fees that come up for franchise businesses in general that feel hidden or unexpected come to be around the investments that are required for things like technology support,
Mm, true, true, true.
subscriptions that you have to be on.
Yeah.
Um, could be things like training fees.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, are training fees included in your initial franchise fee, or do you have to pay extra for your training?
She,
So, sometimes
yeah.
those are the hidden fees that come up after the fact.
Marketing, I understand. Because how else are we going to be able to get the name out there? Especially like it, when I think about like different type of franchises, and I'm only thinking about the food ones because obviously I'm craving.
Yeah.
But like they do their marketing very well. You know when you see that arch that that's McDonald's. You know when you're thinking of a coffee, you're either gonna think about Tim Hortons. I'll say Tim Hortons today, or Starbucks, or what's another one?
Second
Second
cup.
Cup. Yeah, see, you read my big up Second Cup. They have the
Yeah.
best hot
Their
chocolate.
comeback has been, I've been
Listen,
enjoying my second cup still.
they have the best hot chocolate. No one can tell me anything.
Hey.
Listen, I used to
They're
have that with my.
Canadian. They're a Canadian brand.
I
So
know, so that even makes it better because I know we're trying to do mostly Canadian things, but Second Cup, there was so many of them, and then I like to find one was so hard, but I do know a spot that's close to me, so I'm happy. But no, I believe marketing is very important, and even like when you think about like a business and girls try to stick, but marketing is very important. That's the only way you're going to be able to have your brand and stuff out there. So fine, I'm okay with the marketing fee. Ooh, is there a bonus one? Just like a bonus fee that,
just on the point of the marketing fee,
yeah,
when all your franchise partners are coming together to add to that pool of marketing money, it
yeah.
creates that larger budget so that you can run a campaign,
Mm-hmm.
that supports not just your individual location, but feeds the whole brand as a collective. So although it's sometimes painful,
Yeah.
it does really go a long way
Mm.
in getting the brand message out there.
Okay.
The only tip, a thing I would say is like do your research, right? Um, sure, you might say this has low fees, like maybe it's a low investment fee, a low marketing fund, a low, um, a low royalty.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you getting for that? Right?
Exactly.
What's the support like? What is the marketing campaign like? Um,
Mm-hmm.
how do they support you as a franchise partner or a small business in your local community? And are they open, right, to
Mm-hmm.
feedback to say, hey, I know you spent a lot of money doing this promotion over here, but I need some additional support getting that message across in my local community.
And that's important, and I think that's like the one thing that you mentioned from the jump is the community and how to be able to reach the community, whether it's like a fundraising or like I've seen some businesses do
Yeah.
like reach out to the community so you feel like welcomed and stuff. Or the best thing about like a franchise is when they remember your face, right? You're like, Like I know I remember listening to one of my friends like in Alberta, and they'd be going to like the same Tim Hortons, and they're like, "Oh, you want this, don't you?" And I was like, "How do you know you're taking?" She's like, "But I come here like all the time." I was like, "Sir, you're wilding." But that gives you like a nice joy and stuff, and I think that's something that some of the franchisors should think about as well. Like, make sure that at least the franchise you're choosing is like in your community and you're able to make it work and stuff, right? But I also want to ask a question
Yeah.
about hot perspectives. So, what actually, do I want to start with that? What is the meaning of hot perspectives? Let's do it that way. What's the meaning of that?
That's a good question. And even as an entrepreneur who's been in business for a couple of years, like just celebrated 2 years. Thank you.
Don't worry, I got you.
Round 2 of that. Yeah, even as a business that's been around for 2 years, I sometimes still struggle to like really communicate the message, and I've been working on that. And so what I'll take the time to kind of explain to you is the framework that I use. So hot perspectives is essentially about, again, championing courageous, honest, open, transparent conversations in business, right? You have to start with step 1, which is getting honest. That's the H. Let's talk about the reality of the thing from your perspective, right? So acknowledging what's working and what's not working, using data to understand the story of the business or the situation.
Yeah.
And courageously addressing the elephant in the room or the difficult stuff, right? Especially when there's power and, you might have to tell your investors something or have a hard conversation with your boss or have a conversation with a new hire. It could literally be anything, but you got to get honest first.
Yeah.
What's the issue? What's the data saying? What's the hard thing that I'm probably struggling to communicate about, or what's keeping me up at night, right?
Yeah.
So the next step in the process is I help create an open, I help you get open, right? Because being honest is one thing. You can say, you know what? Yeah, I can acknowledge I have a problem. I have a problem. But unless you're open to discussing it, open to hearing perspectives that might be different than yours, open to feedback, right?
Yeah.
Which I can understand and acknowledge is sometimes hard to do. Feedback is sometimes hard to give and hard to receive.
Oh, don't we know? Especially in the Caribbean.
And yeah, and honestly, that's sometimes where people get stuck.
Yeah.
Right? They think that they're ready for feedback. They think they're ready for those open conversations, and then things get uncomfortable, or they hear something that is really unexpected and they shut down. So we learn how to create safe spaces, whether that's in private or in public, to have those open conversations.
And when you say safe space like one-on-one, or like with the whole entire community or organization that's able to have that feedback and openness, because that's important.
Absolutely. So I've done both. I've done it one-on-one with my coaching clients, and I've also facilitated workshops and delivered keynotes that help bring that to organizations, big and small.
And that goes back to the conversation. That's
Yes.
so I like that. Like the safe space is, I think, is really ideal, because once the vulnerability is like down, then they'll be able to say, okay, I understand what you're saying, and these are okay. I'm open to listen to you and see how I can critique and switch things. So I like that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And then T is for transparency, right? And you need transparency to align on what comes next.
Yes.
Okay, we got honest. We know what the issue is. We know what the problem is. We understand it. Step 2, we've talked about, brainstormed ideas. We've talked about, things. We've opened up the conversation. Now we have to continue in transparency so that we can build a plan, understand next steps, and hold each other accountable.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's the framework there. Honest, open, transparent. And how we get there?
Yes. That's okay. I was about to ask that. So like with that, those steps,
Yeah.
what would you say is what's the longest steps, or like the longest that we were able to get to that level? Don't worry, you don't have to say any brands or anything. But it's nice to know, like, okay, there's gonna be an average person that takes like, quick fast, or like the average, but let's talk about those folks that you're like, woo, child.
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, I think it really depends on the barrier or the sorry, not the barrier. It depends on the situation that you're trying to overcome.
Yeah.
The topic that you're trying to discuss. I'll keep it to business. So let's say you have a restaurant, because we've been talking about restaurants in this conversation, and it also happens to be where I've spent my career.
Okay.
So you have a restaurant and you have this new menu item that you're so thrilled about. You think it's the best thing. You make it in your kitchen, you serve it to a couple friends. They say that they love it.
Sorry.
Serve it to family. They say that they love it. Then you serve it to your customers in your store and it doesn't do well.
Shucks. The harsh reality. What do you do?
Now, exactly. Now you have to be honest with yourself, right? You could have a great product.
Yes.
It should maybe be selling well, but there's been a disconnect somewhere. Now, are you going to go back to your process, your product, have real conversations, maybe do some secret shops? Are you going to investigate to find out what's happening? Or are you just going to say, these customers don't know a good thing when they see it. I'm going to keep selling it even though I'm throwing it out every day. Because I don't want to accept, I don't want to be honest about what's going on.
And maybe it's not the biggest failure, but maybe it wasn't that time.
But do you even care to find out? Do you even care to find out? Some people are just like, no.
Yeah. Like, nah, I had my friends eat it. They were like, bon appetit. It was amazing. Yeah. But you know what? Why wouldn't? Then I would think, like, why not do a survey? Or like, what is it? I used to do them. Shooks. Taste test and stuff. That would have been more ideal. Like, yes, your family and friends are supposed to be the ones that will tell you the truth, but they're also yes people, right?
That's the point. That's
Yeah.
the bear. That you hit it right, Camille.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
deserve it. Pew, pew, pew.
Because I remember those times. And listen, there is sometimes I go to a restaurant and I look and I was like, who's gonna eat this? What? Not even this. Like,
So
you know
that
what?
is, yeah.
I
Go
couldn't
ahead.
hate because you want to know why? So
Why?
during Christmas, even though I do not like the winter, but the best thing in winter is a peppermint chocolate mocha, whatever, anything peppermint. I'm about that. I'm like, yum, yum, yum. Every time I mention to someone how much I love peppermint, they're like, yeah.
You?
I'm like, don't yuck my yum, okay?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
understand. But there's other people that love peppermint with me. I should make a poll like that. Who likes peppermint with me, y'all?
And that same example, you might love it. And even you might have 5 out of 10 of your friends love it. But if your customers don't love it,
then it's a
then
joke.
you can't take it personally. You have to say, this is great for me. I'll serve it at my birthday party next month, and I'll have it at home in my own comfort, but it's not the right decision for my brand.
Correct. Okay, so then let's stick with that.
Or my business.
Yeah, for the business, the brand. Isn't there, okay, for a new menu to come out with a brand, isn't there supposed to be like a process, like someone in the system's gonna be saying, yeah, this is it?
If there's anything your listeners, your audience takes away from this conversation, the number one question I would ask a brand that I'm interested in investing in is, how are decisions made around here? Yeah. Yeah. Because you'd think that there's a process in place to get to the decision.
Yeah.
But for some brands, there's just one person at the top who decided, and a team of people that
they're like, yes, yep, you're right.
Get it done. Yeah.
Sheesh. Okay.
Imagine if all the decisions were made with the thought of, I really like the taste of peppermint hot chocolate. I'm going to make this, I'm going to build an entire brand just about peppermint hot chocolate because I love it so much.
I feel attacked. But it's fine. I'll add, what is it? The pumpkin spice.
Yes.
I'll give you guys your pumpkin spice and all that stuff, but nah. I want that peppers. No, I'm joking. So yes, that's important. Like, who makes the decisions overall? So okay. So with that question, isn't it the top dog overall that makes that decision? So even if, like me, I have the franchise and I'm like, I don't want pumpkin spice in here. You can't say no. Oh, is there? So now I have another question.
Ask it.
If you, okay, so they say, Camille, during fall, you have to do pumpkin spice. And I say, no. Is there a fee if you disagree with something that the franchise wants?
That's a great question, and I'm happy you asked it.
Because I'm like,
because that's the other side of the coin when it comes to, do I want to start my own business or do I want to buy a franchise?
Okay, so that's the pros and cons. Okay.
So if you've signed that franchise agreement, and paid those fees, and you have now subscribed to everything in that document,
Yeah.
it means that if someone says to you, I don't care if nobody in your community enjoys pumpkin spice, we're serving pumpkin spice.
Yeah.
You can voice your opinion, you can voice your concern, but you are obligated by the franchise agreement to run the promotion.
Okay. So it's their way or the highway.
And if you don't, you could be in breach of your agreement, and there's repercussions for that.
Okay. All right, folks. So I like any flavors that is going to be given to me. But I just want peppermint all the time, the whole year. That's all. Okay. You know what? I think that's something that folks definitely have to think about.
Yes.
And put their ego aside and say, like, okay, I guess I have to follow the rules. But the only thing interesting is, like, so, like, I've been around the world back in the day in my younger years. One of the things I'd like to do is look at other restaurants in different countries and see how different it is. So the one example I can remember is McDonald's, is that wherever country I'm in, like South Korea, Thailand, and stuff, they had something for them, like, that was relatable. And I was like, well, that's cool.
Yes.
That's cool. So I guess there is, like, it is still their way, but they'll make accommodations for the culture, which is actually ideal. I just know that.
So what you're talking about there is localization of a brand.
Okay.
Localization. And so the core of the McDonald's, because you brought it up, menu is there. You're going to get fries there, and you're going to get fries in South Korea. You might get the Big Mac there and the Big Mac in South Korea. But we understand and acknowledge that culturally, this population prefers spicy, or there's a flavor profile that, this culture really celebrates.
Yeah. Or big up KFC in Jamaica. KFC in Jamaica. I don't care what anyone says. I'll say it now and I'll say it again. I've gone around the world for KFC, and it's KFC in Jamaica, Thailand, and Morocco. Surprisingly.
What makes KFC in Jamaica it?
Sorry, I'm just thinking about it. It's just so good. Like, it's real chicken. First of all, real chicken, spice and everything. I remember the first time I had KFC in Jamaica, probably like 17 years ago, and I was acting like a real tourist. I was like, oh my gosh. And ever since then, I've not had KFC in Canada since.
Wow.
I'm like, oh,
once you've had the best, you can't go back,
right? It's like, even when I had ramen in Japan, I do sometimes dibble in Mr. Noodles, but that ramen, oh my gosh. Sorry. As you know, I'm a foodie. But no, so I'm glad I asked that question, because I wasn't aware, like, I didn't know there was, like, penalty. Maybe I did know there's penalties. Like, obviously you have to follow the rules, right?
Yeah. The best brands, though, like you gave the McDonald's example, but the best brands, if you're a franchisor or you're buying into a franchise brand, the localization part is important, because it's not the same everywhere. And so the best brands understand that, recognize that, acknowledge it, and leave that wiggle room, and for that localization, and that's lovely, because
you know we got spices in the Caribbean.
Flavors.
Flavors, spices, and all that stuff, right? So it'd be ideal. Like,
Absolutely.
imagine if they brought the Canadian KFC to Jamaica or like other Caribbeans. Listen, ugh. Just the thought. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the challenges that
Yeah.
a lot of expanding brands face
Mm-hmm.
is getting consistent supply chain. Because you just said the chicken is fresh. The chicken is fresh and it's real chicken.
Yeah.
I believe that KFC is using real chicken. It's just the quality or the source of that chicken or food is just different here than it is in other parts of the world. And so how do you manage expectation of customers, of people, but still you got to work with what you have. And if you don't have,
and you know what, that I guess that's one of the kind of pros and cons of a franchise is just being able to be consistent, because ideally you have to be consistent, right? You want to consistently be like the best coffee or the best burger.
Consistency beats best. Can I tell you that?
Okay, well, that's a bar. Hold on.
Consistency beats best. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. If you go into your favorite local shop and you order the same thing every time, and today it just didn't hit, you are more likely to go back and give it another try if the last 6 or 7 times you went, it was good. You give more grace.
That is very true. There's one place I and you want to know why? It's because I go there at least once a week. I would go there. I'd get my wings. Don't worry, I'm not gonna call it the place.
Good. Okay.
I want to, because I did a Yelp. That's how cheese I was. I get the wings. I'm like, these are my wings. Been having it for decades.
Yes.
But I did go to a different location. Yes. And then I was like, this didn't really, some of these wings don't taste good. Granted, I might had, if I had like 10, I tried 4 of them, and I realized after the 4th one, I was like, no, this is not
Can't
good.
have it.
I can't. So then I go back, and I'm like, hey, something's wrong with these wings. I'm just not, I'm not happy with them. Okay, well, I ate them, and they were fine. I was like, now you're calling me a liar. And I don't like that. And it was during like the pandemic. I'm like, do you want to? I was like, I can't even say, do you want to try one of the wings? Because obviously it's pandemic. So I was like, you know what? Cool. Boom. And I never went back again.
Off of one experience? One bad experience?
Because they were rude. She was being rude. She was like, okay. And I didn't help.
That is the golden question in franchising.
Ooh, with customer service? Yeah.
What's more important? The product, the price, or the service? That's the triangle.
True. Ooh, right? I like that one. Hold on. You just keep bringing bars. The triangle. Okay, the triangle. The triangle of a franchise, would you say?
I would say like of a brand, right? Like the product, the price, or I just want to know what shapes your decision to give it another chance. Like if the price went up a little bit since the last time, is that going to deter you? If the product wasn't as good as last time, is that going to deter you? Or is it if the service sucks, that's going to be the thing that deters you?
I guess it depends on people's Because I know folks that will not go, like, even that same place. They're like, no, sir. even e- even which one I'm not gonna say the name.
Okay.
But listen, and I don't know if it was service. I don't know if it's categorized in service or price, but I am very sad about what I seen recently. And I was like, you guys got me. I can't go back until I see something different. Because I do see maybe it is service. Ooh, that's a good question. I didn't think about that. Ooh, the triangle of a brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now I have to, because you know what? I don't think price gets people as much because we know how inflation is going, and like it upsets us. Like what I remember seeing like a flyer of like McDonald's, and obviously the price has gone up. Like the value meal used to be $3.99 back in the day, and then now it's like, but there's still people that go, right? Because they're like, oh,
Because they see value.
exactly.
Because they see value. Right? Price and value are two different things. Because people will pay the price for value. Right?
True. Sheesh. That's a good one because I never thought of it. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
Which
What
one
has the biggest impact on your choice, on your decision? Is it the product? Is it the price? Is it the service? And it sounds like to me, the service is where it's at for you. And I'll agree. Because the service is where it's at for me too.
You agree?
100.
Mm-hmm. So have you had a moment like what is your experience with a place where you've been going there consistently, but that one time you're like, that's it. We good. Tell me the story. You gotta tell us a story.
Well, you shared a good story, and just to piggyback off of that, we're all human, right? Mm-hmm. And so maybe the restaurant that you visited was dealing with a shortage on a ingredient that they thought nobody would notice, but you noticed. Maybe there's somebody new that's in training and forgot to, maybe missed a step, right? Yeah. We're human beings. It happens. Things happen.
True.
But when things go wrong, when they fall below expectations, mm-hmm. how the brand, I'll say, shows up for you when they haven't delivered on their brand promise, mm-hmm. that is what creates the connection and the decision to go back, right? In that same example you shared, if you went back and said, hey, there's something that tastes off about this food, mm-hmm. imagine they said, you're one of our regular customers, and if you say something tastes off, mm-hmm. we're going to investigate and see maybe what it is.
True.
Can we replace that for you? Can we offer you a credit for next time?
That's it. But you want to know what? I did, and then I got sick, which was the worst thing. I got sick, and then while I was sick, I was like, Yelp, and I'm talking about it. And they did message me back, but it was like the fact that the lady said, okay, I ate some of these too. I'm good. I'm like, come on, stop this. Like,
yeah.
But yes, if she did replace it, then I'd be like, I'd been able to go back to the park or the beach and just enjoy my wings and just be like, all right, what a great day, right?
Yeah. So it's about I will. That's a good caveat you put in there, because I will say something that people will not, or often do not, move on, mm-hmm. is safety. Mm. If they don't think you are safe to eat at or work with, that's damaging. That's the thing that's hard to come back from.
Right? And obviously, like with the most franchise that we like been discussing about, safety is the biggest one, because no one wants to be like going into a place and they're like, what is this? What am I witnessing, right? So I definitely want folks to consider that as well.
Food
And
safety. Yeah.
food safety, is that like one of the highest fees for like restaurants, especially? I would please give us some hope. Give us some hope.
What I'll tell you is the most successful franchise brands
Yeah.
prioritize, especially if we're talking in the realm of food,
Mm.
prioritize food safety in everything they do. That is hand washing, temperature controls, cleanliness. And if you're thinking about investing in a franchise business,
Yeah,
you should be curious about
that part.
how they maintain and, you know, verify
Mm-hmm.
food safety,
Yeah.
right? How do you keep things safe, not just for your customers, but for your team members too?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Because yeah, and like even if I think like WSIB and stuff, just safety in general, and unions too, right? That's
there
big.
aren't a lot of unions in the franchise space.
Really? Whoa. Wait,
No.
wait. I'm thinking of. Wait, when you say that, what do you mean? Because I'm thinking of like all the companies that I can think of. They don't have a union, or many don't. Wow. Whew. I'm shocked. I'm actually shocked because I
Really?
would think, yeah, because like the only thing, and Amazon's not a franchise, obviously not. Is it a franchise? Is Amazon considered? No. Okay, I see. I'm like, sheesh.
No.
Really?
No.
Wow. That's a question I'm gonna have to ask offline.
Yeah.
What in the world?
Yeah. While we're on the topic of safety, because
Mhm.
you know, safety, we've talked a lot about food safety
Yeah.
and, you know, security and that, and WSIB and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
think another big area that your listeners should think about when it comes to investing in a franchise is cyber security.
Golly, I just got insurance on cybersecurity recently. Praise Jah. Whew. Yes.
Even if you're just an entrepreneur, um,
Mm-hmm.
and you're scaling and you're growing and you're trying out, you know, systems, and especially with AI so prevalent in business development now,
Yeah. Yikes.
cybersecurity should be top of mind for sure. And you should
Mm-hmm.
be asking about it.
That's a good question. Oh, okay. Now I have it. So what is the, as an investor, what's the top three, and I think we've gone through most of them. What's three ones that you would tell folks like, okay, if you're thinking of investing, um, cybersecurity, safety, and stuff. But what's another, like hidden gem about that? Because I think I didn't think about that overall.
Yeah.
What's the question?
So there's lots of considerations, and I think you've already popped it up on here earlier. It's really just about doing your research and doing your due diligence. You want to make sure that if you're investing in a brand, whether it's your own or a franchise brand or business, that it aligns with your values.
That's true.
You know, you wanna be connected to a brand that feels good. And in the times where maybe you're questioning whether you made the right decision, it's
Mm-hmm.
good to have your feet and your money and your sanity planted in deep rooted values that make sense to you.
Yes.
and how those values show up in the brand and the business. Like if they say that they care about people, how are they demonstrating that? If they say they care about sustainability, how are they showing up for that? How are they demonstrating that? And ask yourself what type of business owner you'd like to be. Are you hoping to work 40, 50 hours a week in your business? Or are you hoping to pay someone to work that 40 to 50 hours in your business? Because when you're paying royalties, marketing, and all of the hidden fees, can you even afford to pay a full-time manager or person to run it?
True, because the it adds up. The fact that you said the royalties and the royalties and the marketing was 11% at least. We're not
Could be up to that, yeah.
Jeez. So like even thinking about that like is a lot.
So how do you, I guess, so it's how are your values showing up and how do you want to show up in your business, right? I've met some franchise partners. Yeah. I've met some franchise partners who have full-time jobs and are trying to run a business. And unfortunately, because they're spending little to no time in their business and they've trusted it to sometimes the wrong people, they end up really suffering, right? Financially, brand reputation, all of that. So you have to ask yourself, how am I hoping to show up in the brand that I'm investing in?
And that's very important as well. You got to be mindful about that. I guess we spoke about like pros and cons about it. Because, like, ideally, I see the pros and cons with it. It's just, I really think it's based on someone's personality, right? Whether they can handle like, I'm okay with listening to someone tell me how to run this business because it's better than starting from scratch. And I don't have that time. Like the fact that someone says has a business and a full-time and the business, kudos to you. Kudos to you because that's a lot, right? You know me, I love chatting. I actually love this conversation because it's like I'm learning so much about franchise. Like I've had these discussions, but I'm just like learning a little bit more because you learn about the hidden fees and like training is very important. So you want to make sure like those are set in the like set in your head like these are the type of things that you want to think about or start a business, have your own baby. Maybe you want to have your peppermint mocha
all year round.
Because honestly, sometimes I'm like, why don't you guys have it still? Like, I just don't understand. Can you just do something? So, okay. What's one more advice that you would give someone that's looking towards getting a franchise? Like, if they want to be an owner.
Because your show is all about money and financing and finances, I'm gonna leave this tip rooted in that.
Okay.
If you have a certain amount of money to invest in a business, let's call it 100,000. Don't shop or look for a franchise brand that's going to require you to invest 100% of what you have. You need to have some money set aside for contingency, for hidden fees or unexpected costs. If it's a restaurant, because we've been talking about it, what happens if equipment breaks down? What happens when your staff turn over? there are going to be costs to, what if the training you have to do in order to, as part of the onboarding, is in a different province, and you have to catch a flight and pay hotel and pay childcare.
Sure. I was about to say, let me do that. Then I was like, eek.
Right?
Okay.
Especially if the training's like, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 6 weeks.
True.
So it's so important to make sure that you have that cushion and that extra, just like if you're buying a house, right?
True.
If you know you're approved for a mortgage of 500,000, do you go and shop for houses that are 500,000? Or
absolutely not.
Or do you shop around the 400 and leave that buffer?
Little wiggle room. And I think that's something that I always mention. It's great to have a safety net, of course. Having a safety net and just be able to, just in case something.
Yes.
Because guess what? There's one thing we've learned in this world.
Yes.
Something always happens, even to the point where we're about to come on.
Yes.
Like things were happening, right? So
Yes.
just want to be able to be mindful about that when it comes to like purchasing a franchise. Sorry. And I always like to ask my guests a certain question. What is 3 things you wish you knew when you were younger? And it could be anything, like franchise, personal finance, anything.
Maybe it's because we're so fresh in tax season. But that is literally one thing that if there was a piece of financial or business, financial literacy that it would be personal taxes and how to maximize. We all have to pay taxes, true. But how do we maximize it in a way that we're only paying what we have to pay, not what's what we have to happen to pay because we don't know better, right?
Indeed.
And that's why, whether you're an entrepreneur doing your own thing or an entrepreneur looking to get into franchising, trust the experts. You don't know everything. It's impossible to know everything. So reach out to the experts. Let them do their thing. Trust their expertise and learn what you can from them.
Exactly.
Right?
Especially if they try to give you advice and you don't want to take. That's another story.
I'm sure you run into it all the time, right? Like, I'm telling you that this is the best way to do the thing, or I'm telling you that you owe because you've made these choices or you don't have this stuff in place, and they're telling you like, no way, make it work. Turn this.
The ones that like to cook up the no. I listen. I only cook in my kitchen. I don't cook in people's books like that. I'm not about that life. So I can go. I've seen the news. They will come for you eventually. CRA is the boogeyman. That's what I always call them. I don't play with that. So okay, so and that is a big one. I guess even I'm going back to the franchise. They have to have someone that takes care of
what? Don't say taxes.
Not like pay it and stuff, but like look over it. Like someone has to look at the financial state. You're stressing me.
Let me ask you, Camille. Have you ever met an entrepreneur or small business owner that doesn't understand cash flow, doesn't understand a balance sheet, has no idea about how things go in and out? the glasses came on. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You know what? Silly of me to think.
Even if you gave them a template and said, this is how you use this thing, it will help you understand. And this comes down to, again, people and processes of the brand and how decisions are made and how, like, what's it actually built on?
Yeah.
Is there somebody that can help me with my end of year taxes?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, I have an idea. Ooh, ooh. Okay, I'm excited.
They're still small business owners. A
Yeah.
franchisee or a franchise partner is still a small business owner, and they still deal with the same barriers and pitfalls and frustrations that any small business owner does, right?
That is fair.
I'll tell you, profit and loss statements, P&Ls, are something that every franchise organization will ask for.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Now, you and I both know junk in, junk out.
Yes.
So if you tell me my food cost is fine, it's good, it's exactly in the range it should be. Yeah, but is that a real number? Or are you just putting in the numbers so that it makes sense? Or are you just reporting the numbers so it makes sense so you don't have to have any other questions or conversations? Right? Or are you relying on your own understanding of what inventory should be included and what inventory doesn't need to be included? Right?
So, okay. I know this is about you, but I have to go back. So with that training aspect, isn't that part of the training? Like, I feel like I personally feel like if you're starting a business and you're buying a franchise, there should be like, I'll give it 2 weeks training of what to expect in the business, and that's me being nice. I'm being very nice with saying 2 weeks training. And then you have to have like a certificate to say like, okay, you have a basic understanding. I just need you to have a basic understanding, and then you'll be able to learn throughout the time, because I could keep these glasses on forever. If I really think about it, right?
Yeah. So I will tell you from a training perspective, same brand. I'm thinking about the same brand in particular. The training program was either 4 weeks if you had experience in that brand already, 8 weeks if you had limited experience, maybe in the same type of concept, but not that brand specifically, and 12 weeks.
12.
No experience. Yeah.
Wow, I was being nice. You know what? I take it back. That one. I think,
depending on, right, the concept, right? Could be 2 weeks. It could be 2 weeks.
No.
It could also be 2 weeks.
How? How?
If you're not, because franchising, I know we've talked about restaurants a lot today, and I know we're coming down to the end of our conversation. We've talked a lot about restaurants and food businesses today, but I do want your audience to know
that there's
like that's only about 55% of the franchising industry. There's a whole lot of other services and products that you could get into for franchising. There are you mentioned the home care, there's cleaning, there's automotive, there's spa and health and wellness, there's franchise businesses you can work from home. There's all kinds, right? And so depending on the business model, it will help influence how long the training is. But getting back to your point about financial literacy and how much of that is focused on financial literacy, I would say there's a lot of assumptions that, hey, if you're buying a business and you're paying all this money for it,
yeah,
you should have a pretty basic understanding of business finance. It's not something we check. It's not something a lot of franchisors check.
even if out of those 12 weeks, 2 weeks to get that understanding, like it's
not a part of it. I've been around, I've seen a lot under the skirts of a lot of brands. It's,
my gosh,
how to pay your taxes, how to pay your employees EI and set them up. That stuff is not included in franchise training.
I tell you a story.
Tell me.
I'm gonna tell you offline. I can't.
Okay.
Oof.
Yeah.
Shucks, but back to you. So that's the first one. But
yeah.
So your second one?
Well, that's the whole
overall. Okay.
That's overall. I mean, I think we dropped a lot of gems in this call. We talked about the values.
Yeah.
We talked about how decisions are made.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about understanding the training. We talked about the HOT framework. Mm-hmm. And whether you're, again, thinking about buying a franchise or building your business,
yeah,
I think it's so incredibly important to be intentional about having those more uncomfortable conversations and asking the hard questions of yourself and of the brands that you're hoping to invest in.
True, because aligning with your values, I feel like is one of the most important ones.
100%.
After the money. Like, am I like 5 years down the road when they do that renewal fee?
Most are 10. Some are 5, but most are 10 years.
10. So yeah. You know, when I'm hitting my midlife,
yeah.
Am I okay with this at that age still?
Do I want to sign on for another 5 years? Do I want to sign on for another 10? Yeah. Some people walk away. And you don't lose anything. You've satisfied your contract, and you can find another. They can find another buyer. You can walk away after that.
Ooh, that's one I didn't know because okay.
Or they can ask you to walk away. You might want to sign on for another term, and they're like,
like,
no thanks. We're gonna give somebody else a shot.
Wow. Yeah. But that's only within the renewal. Or they can do it, they can cut. Okay. They can't cut the agreement, right?
If there's a default, then yes. But it's the stories that we don't often hear about is those amicable departures where it's like, this has been my brand for 10 years. I've been so happy running it, but I'm ready to retire. And so bye-bye. You know, amicable, right? But at the end of a term, either the franchisee or the franchisor can walk away with no real repercussion.
True. I didn't think of that, you know? I always think like, wow, look, you're so silly, Camille. Because look how many times you've gone to a restaurant like, yeah, so we have new management. And then change the food too.
Yeah. Well, that's good something important to differentiate there is if you want to sell your store, you can sell at any time.
Yeah, true. Okay.
But I'm talking about walking, like satisfying your full 10-year term and deciding you don't want to renew. That's very different than saying like, due to whatever reason, I want to sell my store to someone else. That can happen at any point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Good to know. And Melissa, what other avenues are you? I know you have the hot perspectives. I know you got that. You got your YouTube. Two episodes in. Don't worry. When you get here, Listen, I can't wait to see 100, 200 and all that good stuff.
Thank you.
Is that the only avenue that or thing that you're doing at the moment, or?
So not a lot of people know this, but I do have a full-time position with a Canadian franchise brand as a franchise business coach. And yeah, so that is my 9 to 5 full time. What's great about my role there is it's very flexible, which gives me the opportunity to grow Hot Perspectives and help people just show up better for their brands.
Okay.
So I'm really, really happy and privileged and blessed to have a regular, steady income coming in there while I build my business.
That's important.
It is.
Because baby, I think they just mentioned that we're in the R word. Ooh. So I pray for everyone.
Yeah.
Especially since we had we don't have a new party, but we have a new prime minister. And I'm trying to keep up with those things.
Listen, job loss will happen in this season and this time. And a lot of entrepreneurs that I meet or people looking to buy a franchise business, it's come out of pain. It's come out of job loss. It's come out of, I need to get creative and figure out another way to make money. And so though this is a hard, rough time for a lot of people, there is still opportunity in this uncertain time. Tap into your network, tap into your community, ask for help. Not when it's the 10th hour, but the 11th hour. But if you can be proactive in asking for that help and support, whether which way you're starting or buying or building or whatever, that is what I would say.
Okay.
And just like if you're trying to buy a house, you might look to partner with 1, 2, or 3 people to make it happen. We see a lot of other communities do it.
Say it again.
Why not invest in a business
again?
Why not invest in a business together? If my 50,000 and your 50,000 means that we have more opportunities to invest in more brands, more options, let's do it.
And of course, contracts.
Yes.
But no,
the fine details we figure out. But I'm just saying, get creative.
Exactly.
Get creative.
I love that because so amazing. I've loved this conversation. I knew I'm telling you, I knew from when I seen you, I was like, nah. I like her energy. I think I was even late. I was late.
Yeah. But you sat at my table, so it was meant to be.
They wanted the ladies with the locks together and things, right? Don't worry, I still have the photo. I'm like, this is how I want it. I really need it done like this to look cute and things. So thank you for your inspiration. How can the folks find you, Melissa?
So you just mentioned I recently launched my podcast, my show. So check me out on YouTube at Hot Perspectives. I am the most active on LinkedIn. So you can search my name, Maliesa Cadogan, Maliesa. I'm also on Instagram, but again, mostly on LinkedIn.
That is very true.
Yes, my website will launch. My new website will launch very soon. I'll announce it.
Yes,
but if you want to get in touch, you can follow me on any of those channels or hit me in the DMs.
Awesome. And it was yes, you are active on LinkedIn. I'm not often on LinkedIn, but every time I opened up, I was like, damn, how do you do it? How do you have all this time?
Well, remember I just told you when you're trying to grow, when you're trying to figure things out, rely on community, rely on network, find people who are experts at the thing to help you build that. And that's what I've done in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I have people helping me out with the things. Yeah.
All right. Now I'm gonna start looking at my peoples. I know you know who you are. I know you're listening, you're watching. I'm coming for y'all. Trust me, best believe. But listen, thank you so much for reaching. Folks, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. And hey, with the uncertainty that's happening in this economy, let's weigh our options, whether starting your own business or buying a franchise is ideal for you, so we could create generational wealth.
Absolutely. Build legacies out here.
We're trying. And then also, I love that last thing. And that's the last thing I'm going to say. Make sure you find your tribe, your community, and see how we can work together so we can build this wealth.
100%.
We're better together than alone.
100%.
You see it. All right, folks. Yes. Till next time. And just to say, because I'm not sure if I'm going to do one just yet. Happy Mother's Day early for everyone. I haven't decided yet. I might do something. I'm trying. We'll see.
Camille, thank you so much for having me on the show and for making this happen. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience, because I'm a risk taker. I like to live on the edge. Until next time, folks. Peace out.
I just wanna be free with my people to prosper and hold it down. Don't you sit and wait, contemplating on a revolution. The time is now. I just wanna be free. I just wanna be free. I just wanna be free. I just wanna be free.